CNF worldwide for nomads everywhere.
Cool, we're on now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
good,
wow.
happy Friday
Nice.
afternoon, everybody.
Hey,
This
nice.
is Rick Carter with CNF Worldwide, and we're here at Checkerspot Brewing in South Baltimore, an area I know and love. And we're here with Rob Neff, his wife Judy Neff, and Steve Marsh, who are the owners, co-founders, brewers, and everything as far as Checkerspot goes. Greetings, guys. Good to meet you all.
What's going on?
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
My pleasure. I've had a chance to sample a few of your beers here before starting this conversation. Excellent. Really happy. Really like the bitter, and really like the juniperous. That's really flavorful. So we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning. Let's start with Judy and Rob. So you guys are a married couple.
Yep.
You're both Judy. You have a PhD in microbiology, and from what my research, Rob was rehabbing in houses and that kind of thing. So what led you to the point where you decided we think we'll start a brewery?
Well, so it started back in, it's probably 2004. I went on a tour at Anchor Brewing in San Francisco, and I don't know what it was about that tour, but I just thought brewing looked like this super cool thing, and I wanted to go home and try it. So I got home, went to Maryland Homebrew, got one of the little starter kits with the little, it comes with a recipe with all the ingredients measured out for you. And I started brewing on my stove.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, yeah. And just loved it. So I sort of hooked after the first one, which if I had my first beer now, I probably would think it was disgusting. But at that point, I was only drinking Natty Boh, and it tasted amazing to me. And that you made it yourself too.
So before that point in time, had you guys been beer aficionados? I mean, had you tried craft beers? Was it like a thing for you, or is this just something that kind of snapped?
I would say for me, I always liked craft beer, late 90s, getting into like Clipper City back then, and I've always been into a little better beer, but still would drink Milwaukee's Beast, Natty Boh, all the good stuff.
But what you can afford.
Yeah, at that
Yeah,
point.
and I mean, I was in graduate school, so
Yeah.
barely scraping by. So yeah, I could afford Natty Boh, and there weren't too many craft beer places, but I did when I lived here before. I really loved Baltimore Brewing Company. Used to go there all the time. So I don't know that I thought about it as, I'm super into craft beer, but I knew what good beer tasted like versus, I knew when I was drinking crap, but I knew what good beer was. Yeah.
So once you started home brewing in 2004, this apparently was a hobby that did it grow and grow and grow from there?
It grew and grew, got crazier and crazier. And then we moved in together, and the basement was unfinished. So he got a workshop and I got a brewery. So I got that sort of took it to the next level. I ended up having about 8 taps downstairs, and
You get to walk through Rob's workshop to get to the brewery.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. You got to walk through it all to get to the bathroom.
You just to hang out down there. Yeah.
We may, for the sake of posterity and historical accuracy, we may have to visit your house.
Yeah.
We may need to see this.
definitely,
But
yeah.
Still
I've
down
interviewed a bunch of brewers, and it's like, okay, I got the bug. I went to the homebrew store. And next thing I know, I just grew and grew.
Yeah.
And next thing there was more and more and more in my basement or my
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys have said to my wife, said, you better go start a brewery because you're not bringing anything else in the house. Was it that kind of an evolution?
Similar. I love brewing downstairs. I love home brewing. It just sort of got to the point with my job. I love science. There's definitely science in brewing. So it's a good transition in that sense. But I love research, but it just wasn't something that I saw myself doing
Passion.
forever. I wasn't passionate enough about it, and that's why I decided to sort of take that leap.
Yeah, so what was it? What was the flashpoint where you guys sat down and said, you know what, let's try this? I mean, we brew good beer at home. We can do this for a living. What was it that made you decide to take the leap?
Yeah, for me it was my job. So I had a nice job. The company was going out of business, and I was able to have the opportunity to either get very stressed about it and need to look for another job, or at that point take a step back and say, is this what I really want to be doing? Do I want to go look for another similar type job? And the answer was no. So I used that time wisely to start to put together an idea of, is this even possible? Trying to run numbers of, can you even make any money
Meantime,
opening a
she's
brewery?
mad scientist in the basement creating junipers and some of the stuff that
So
we're drinking right now.
Yeah. Mad scientist, I like that.
So talk about the business side for a second, because I know there's a ton of people out there homebrewing, and they're all think, oh, I could run a brewery, I could do that, I could do this. What went into you guys? You have the idea, you developed the business plan, you got to get the funding. How'd that whole process work?
I mean, I definitely spent probably a good solid year and a half working on, trying to prepare a financial statement, a business plan, because it's really hard. You try to make up numbers. So now that we've been open, some I have real numbers, but it's trying to start off. You haven't done it before, and you're trying to come up with. How many beers are we going to sell? How many beers are we going to sell per week?
You need to prove to the bank.
How many crowlers are we going to sell? How many pints? It's like, so you have to do a lot of research to really try to come up with an educated guess, and then obviously build in a lot of room for error, because there will be things that come up.
So you come up with your educated guesses, you've got a business plan, then who do you go to and say, hey, we want to start a brewery?
So we have an SBA loan through M&T Bank, so they've been great and very supportive that way. We have a couple investors, and then sort of some private loans, as well as our equity.
Family helps us out.
The angel investors kind of thing.
Each of our,
and that's where we had worked, and
pretty much.
and then we had worked and saved up some money. So you need to go capitalize to a bank. So we were only asking the bank to do less than 50%. And that's something they're comfortable with.
Right.
You can't just go to a bank and say, I want to start a brewery, but I don't want to risk anything.
And then you have to have collateral. Your houses are houses.
All of our houses are on the loan. They'd be getting their money if we defaulted. Let's put it that way.
So banks are fond of hearing that you're willing to put some skin in the game, as it were.
You have to put a lot of skin in the game.
We recently interviewed a guy in Virginia Beach who started, him and his wife 25 years ago, with one little pizza joint. They're now easily the biggest Italian restaurant chain in Tidewater, Virginia, and they have tons of other things going on. And his response to us when I said, what is the single biggest issue with entrepreneurs? He said, undercapitalization. Yeah. They know what they want to do, they know how to do it, they just don't have the money to do it right, and that's what leads to their failure. So at what point in time do you guys approach Steve and go, hey, Steve, we're going to start a brewery. Want to join us? Is that how it worked? Or tell me the story.
Very soon. It was dark.
Yeah, so it was, I guess at this point, it's like 2.5 years
April,
ago.
we met April.
Because it was
April,
2.5
years. April.
Coming up on 3 years ago.
Time flies. Yeah.
But we met before.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and Rob and I were talking about starting it up, and this is a huge undertaking. It's massive with the beer, the distribution, the tap room. Do we
just
wanna,
normal
do we wanna
everyday
have
stuff.
Food? There's
keeping up
so
with it.
much stuff, and I was like, we can't. Just the two of us can't do this. And what if something happens? What if my mom gets sick, or things that we would both need to go to, or things like that? We're tied together that way. And it's like we need somebody else to be able to do this. Even 3 people, it's a lot. it's a lot for 3 people. But just to have somebody else involved as part of this huge endeavor. And Steve was sort of looking at doing something similar at the same time. So we were talking about, rather than having 2 separate breweries, to sort of come together and make sort of one better brewery.
So let's segue to Steve, because having read over your bio and some information about you, you've worked at other breweries, run Cask program at Heavy Seas and things like that.
Right.
What attracted you to come in and be a partner in this project?
In this project?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I've been working with Milk House and had the whole, so bringing locally grown ingredients into the whole brewing scene. And it was sort of the segue from Heavy Seas, where I worked at Heavy Seas, where I was doing all the cask work, to Milk House, where I was doing all the brewery and trying to put all the local ingredients and hops and local things that we're growing in them into the beer. So after about 2 years of that, I decided I really wanted to go out and supply and find homes for all these local farmers that had tons and tons of stuff they were throwing away every year. And how could that be done? And also, I had been home brewing for a very long time. My first home brewing experiences are my dad bringing brew kits from Boots Pharmacy in the late 70s. Yeah, so he had a green trash can in the back of the basement and he used to brew. My job was actually to bottle back then and make sure that they didn't explode. So
yeah,
I've
now
had a lot
jump
of
in for a second.
experience.
For those of you who have been to the UK, you know what Boots Pharmacy is.
Yes. Yeah. So I would bring back all the cans and like paraphernalia. So we go to pubs. I was very young, and we go to pubs, and I'd have a half a pint with Dad, and then we'd also he would fill up empty suitcases with brew kits, and I'd bring back beer cans, the big giant beer cans, and the Tenants girls and all that. It was a lot of fun. And then my job, like I say, was in the basement. I sat in the basement and I put the little sugar tablet in each champagne bottle, 750 milliliter, put the cork on and twisted the top on it. And that was kind of my job very young. And then I worked at Mars Supermarket, a local grocery store, as a produce manager for a long time. So I got a lot of food experience. And then, and now it's been sort of trying to bring everything together, all the experience of cooking on the grill and smoking and the beer and the ingredients and local, and we are the force of nature.
That's right.
And actually these two approached me and they said the name of the brewery was Checkerspot Brewing. So the Baltimore Checkerspot is actually the Maryland State Butterfly. And when they said that to me, I was like, wow, it just triggered. It triggered my brain. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking Black-Eyed Susans and Checkerspot butterflies. And
I'm going to say, as somebody who was born in Maryland and lived here most of my adult life, I think it's a genius name, genius marketing. But I'll confess that I didn't know what a Checkerspot butterfly was until Jason told me yesterday. I'm so ashamed.
And then we've got the.
We're here to educate.
My daughter says she came up with
beer
this
and
whole
education.
thing. This is the bearder fly, which are the guy that's doing all our artwork, Adams. It's an awesome guy. He came up with the whole logo here. And my daughter calls it the bearder fly, which is really kind of cool.
It is cool. So now we've started the brewery, and the product is beer. So we've got, the guy who enjoyed a good craft beer back in the day when he wasn't drinking Milwaukee's Beast. We've got the mad scientist over here. We've got the guy who was brewing beer with Dad when he was way young. So how do you guys come up with the ideas for the beers that we see here on your availability list today?
Like styles or names?
The styles.
We sit down, have a couple beers. We sit down and have a couple beers.
have a
We
beer.
get everybody here involved, like our employees, and we sit down and we John Quad. I mean, we all were like joking, what are we going to call this quad? And we couldn't really think of anything, and we all got together and had a couple beers and came up with Jean.
Yeah, Adam actually came up with that one because that one was
He
for
was
good
doing a
artwork.
split at the time.
And then we were like, he's got to be doing a split on top of the kegs. He's got to be Jean.
No, but that's the nice thing with homebrewing for so long is you've made tons of different kinds of beer. All of us like so many different styles of beer. We don't just drink hot beer, just malty, or just high alcohol, or just we like just such a wide range. So our goal is really to have something for everybody here. Beer is so subjective. Some people love hops and some people hate them. So we always try to keep that in mind when we're thinking about what to brew as well, to try to, and that is really hard to figure out when something's going to be out and something's going to come in, and sort of get a handle on that. But we always want to make sure that we have malty beers and hoppy beers and like one high alcohol beer, some session beers, a sour beer.
And sour beer is all
Different
local
things like
ingredients,
that,
so it's really cool trying to fit everything in where we're trying to help local as well as all the tanks that you see right here. We're drinking the beer right directly from those tanks to the
Talk to me about the local aspect, because as we travel around, and part of the mission of CNF is to support local business, to support entrepreneurs, support small business all over America. How important is that ethos to Checkerspot? It seems like it's central to your philosophy.
I'll let Judy talk a little bit about the grains. I'll talk a little bit about the fruit, because I've sort of collected and followed the seasons, and I even have like 70 blueberries in my own garden that I've been growing specifically to make beer. So I've been growing things over the years just to make beer. and then sourcing for other breweries. Last year for Manor Hill, one of the local breweries, I sourced 2,000 pounds of peaches. And I had family members in the kitchen pitting them and freezing them, and it became, now we have 9 freezers here full of local. So every season I try to collect, so the beginning starts with strawberries, and then you get sour cherries, sweet cherries, and it works throughout the season. I try to collect enough to do a brew, a 15-barrel batch for each, and so we can decide whether we want to make a sour or we can make a pale ale with watermelon. We don't know yet, so we can. It gives us some options to work with in the middle of the winter when nobody has local fruit. Nobody has local watermelon.
Cool. Pull it out.
Pull it out. We're pulling out plums.
Yeah. Off season.
Yeah, he knows all sorts of crazy fruits. Like I had never heard of a pawpaw until I met Steve. And yeah,
and we actually, before we opened, we were able to do collaborations with breweries like Flying Dog, and they traded us pawpaws for hops. Where we worked together, we made a collaboration ale called Two Paws, Pawpaw, and we've done that three times.
Three times.
We did twice at their brewery with local source pawpaws, pitted them and skinned them, thousands of pounds the first year. This year was about 1,000 pounds we did, and make beer with them. Add them into certain times of fermentation. We learned a lot about how to make beer before we even making it. But
he really knows so many unique things that are local to the area. These crazy berries. There's so many things that I may have heard the name, but I didn't know what they were. That type of thing. And so he's always popping up with these. I'm the mad scientist, but he's like the mad farmer.
So the collaboration aspect is what I want to say. It's in a lot of businesses, it's just straight up competitive. But in the craft brew industry, it's like people just look for opportunities to go, hey, let's
work together.
Let's go hang out with these guys over here and throw some stuff in the vat and see what comes out.
Or you could get advice from other brewers. You can call them up. Something breaks, they'll have a clamp we might need, or ideas on how to brew better, or any questions you could really have. Right?
It was a couple of months ago. We had a stalled fermentation. Rob went over to one of our local brewers and brought some yeast to help us out. And it's sort of, everybody is really into helping each other out.
See, that's very cool. We don't find that in a lot of other businesses.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So let's talk about your operation here. So you guys are down here on South Sharp Street. I mean, you literally across the street from the tailgate lots for Ravens Stadium. Yeah. So all you people in Baltimore who are Ravens fans, when you come to the games next year, right down here across from, was it Lot G there, whatever it is?
Right. It's like what do they say? Johnny Unitas throw away from the stadium.
So Lot H is caddy corner that way, but then directly across the street, our landlord owns that parking lot. So the other 350 days a year, we have probably 400 parking spots available to us.
Safe.
Yes,
safe.
listeners, you will not have trouble finding a place to park.
No. Safe covered parking.
And so it's only the home Ravens games, and they use it as tailgate lots. But he owns a ton of this parking around here.
Yeah, and for all you people who just heard it, Billy Joel's coming to Oriole Park here in the summer. Just a short walk away is Checkerspot Brewing. Shameless plug. So you guys are brewing beer here. The tap room's open. It looks great, but you've got expansion going on even as we speak. What all are you going to have here at this location?
More space, really, which we really need. We're going to have a really big upstairs to host events, and another big bar up there that will open when we get super busy, or Ravens days. We'll probably have it open up there. We just need more space. We're getting a lot of support from the community and lots of events. It's just need the space.
So you're getting a lot of support from the community. You guys have been open since June, so a little over 6-7 months now. How's the reception been so far?
Fantastic. More and more as our name gets out there and the brand gets out there, and the product speaks for itself. It's great beer, so it's
and we've gotten to know a lot of the people. Yeah, we've really gotten to know a lot of the people in the area.
A lot
who
of
come
local,
here a lot, very regularly, and it's been really cool to get to know a bunch of these people, and
was our vision. It's kind of like support local and then work your way out, have people walk. We got families and dogs, and it's great. We got games out back for the kids.
I mean, Ravens games are only 9 games per year. I think we got 10 this year, but that's not our primary.
If the Orioles
market.
do well this year, we'll do great with the Orioles.
Yeah, hopefully.
They got a starting over. Like, give them a chance.
Dare to
Start from the
dream,
bottom,
Steve.
right.
Dare to dream.
It's gonna take some
Like
years.
if it snows,
Come
people
back
can't
up.
just walk
But there's
in.
70 Oriole games, so we got plenty of.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what's the best thing about owning your own brewery?
The creativity of making beer and building all this, it's all up to us. You know, no one else is going to do anything for us, and we're the reason we're successful because we work so hard and entrepreneuring.
Good teamwork.
And for me, it's
Yeah.
you actually you're making something with your own hands. Like you're making something that is something, you know, obviously we've been huge craft beer fans for a long time going to breweries, and but to be able to actually make that and then serve it here and see people enjoy it ourselves, it's really, really huge. And then also, you know, to be part of the craft beer community that is such an awesome group of people. People who come to craft breweries are awesome. People who, you know, are involved with craft breweries are awesome. It just brings a really people you want to be around. Whereas, you know, in science there was a lot of negativity and trying to say, you know, I'm smarter than you are, and I'm going to put you down, and that's how I show I'm smarter. You don't find that here. You don't say, you know, we don't say, oh, don't go to that brewery, their beer's not good. We say, come here, and then when you're done here, head on over to that brewery too.
So Judy, I want to ask you, as a lady who's a brewer, how's the acceptance level been for you as a female who's actually brewing the beers?
So none of the other brewers treat me differently. I don't ever feel like they don't say, oh, that's the girl brewer, or, you know, nobody treats me
Judy extra special. She
any differently. Yeah, they might like me more.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
But I never
have a
feel
beard.
like I'm treated any differently. The
that's
only
awesome.
time you ever
awesome.
find somebody say something is, you know, when you're talking to someone who comes to the brewery or something like that, and they assume that Rob's the brewer. So I'll start asking him questions, and he's like, I don't know. I don't
Sell
do
your beer.
this. Yeah.
Give them
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
He does he's like, I sell the beer and I get it in the bars, but yeah.
Because as we talked earlier, I mean, and I'm a little bit older than you guys, and when I was young, beer was a very masculine thing. It was a guy thing. But now we have you.
Yeah.
This team will be at Alamorada Beer Company on Wednesday down in the Florida Keys. The head brewer is like a 29-year-old young lady, and I've had her beers recently, and they're very good. As we discussed, Carol Stout at Stout Brewing is well into her 70s, but she's been brewing beer for over 30 years. It's one of the best around.
Well, yeah, and the whole argument with that, so one of our friends, Maureen O'Prey, is an amazing beer historian. She's written a couple of books about beer in Baltimore as well as beer in the whole state of Maryland. You know, her whole argument is that beer started out, you know, it was home brewing. Women, it was part of their duties to make all the beer
Exactly.
at home.
Before Prohibition.
And that's, you know, what
women
you
were the
do.
brewers.
Forever ago.
And then, yeah,
Exactly.
even before that, and it's as soon as it became sort of industrialized and a sort of huge industry, then all of a
became
sudden, the guys
Yeah.
decided they wanted to start taking over, and
out of the kitchen.
and that's just sort of how it's been. And I think with a lot of the craft breweries, things are definitely changing now. But I think a lot of them, when they first started up, you know, it was a lot of machismo and guys doing stuff that they shouldn't even be doing, like trying to lift things that are
Lift
way too
180
heavy
ton.
over their heads and things like that. So it was really,
Need some sensibility in
yeah. So I think with that, with probably us being older, we're a little smarter
yeah.
about how, you know, we don't want to hurt
Lift with your
ourselves.
legs.
that. Yeah, I've
Lift with your
rolled a
legs.
couple kegs over my foot or squeezed
Yeah.
and pinched my fingers or whatever.
Yeah.
It happens, yeah.
It's teaching the young people. I mean, that's really what I've been kind of doing over the past few years is like teaching the young people, okay, you got to roll that keg carefully because you're going to get hurt. You got to be very careful. You got to slow and easy wins the race.
All it takes is one time.
Yeah,
One
so it'd be
time.
dangerous.
Let's
Or
amplify on that.
hot water or something. There's so many things in a brewery that can hurt you.
Let's touch on that topic for a second, because, like, you know, you guys are at a certain age range, and I see a lot of your employees might be a year or two younger than everybody sitting at this table. What's it like bringing them along? What's your goal for your staff as far as the future of Checkerspot Brewing goes?
Oh, I mean, we want them to
teach them
stay.
to be safe.
Oh, yeah.
Teach
We
them to be
want them to
safe and
stay,
like make the good quality stuff that we're making. I mean, that's what we're trying to teach. And our bar crew, I mean, our bar, we got probably 100 years of experience of bar experience. Like everybody came to us and wanted to work behind it. We want to work behind the bar. So we got like a really good crew working for us.
Yeah, it's more of a family. So that's how we all approached it from the beginning, is we wanted the people who worked here, you know, to stay, to start at the beginning and sort of rise up through with us all together and sort of be a part of the Checkerspot
If you
family.
need some extra hours, work the bar or whatever. You need to work in the brewery.
You said a word a second ago, Steve, quality.
Quality.
We live in a world where it's just like constant imagery and the information comes to people a million miles a second, and a lot of it is transient, then gone. And it seems like maybe quality is something that suffers in our society these days.
We are tasting all the ingredients.
At the alternative of marketing blitz.
We are tasting all the ingredients before we put. I mean, we were standing over there the other day tasting every different grain that went into a new nut brown that we're making, a chocolate nut brown. I stood there like every grain that we're dumping in, I'm like tasting the ingredients to make sure it's just smelling them.
No, one thing that we think is very important, so it's supporting local and also the quality of the ingredients, so that without, you know, that just because you can get a grain for, you know, 10 cents cheaper doesn't mean you should just be using that grain for that reason. Yeah, we really, one of the things we did before we started up was, you know, it's base grain. What's the base grain we're going to use for all our beers? And we brewed it's actually our Daydream cream ale, so it really highlights what our base grain tastes like. And we brewed that with a whole bunch of different grains, and one really stood out. So it's yeah, we really find the ingredients to be extremely important. So if you're not starting with the best, you can't then make great beer.
So what is the long-term plan for Checkerspot? You're open, you're building out more space, as Rob said. If we could be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what would you guys like to look back at that point in time and say, yeah, this is what we did here?
Yeah, lots of distribution around Baltimore, great product, cool brand. People still come 10 years from now when we're still getting packed with events, and
we're old.
Yeah. Probably some more tanks in the back, more tanks at some point. Maybe a canning line, who knows?
Yeah.
No, I just want it to be I want to be one of those breweries that people say, oh, Checkerspot, yeah, no, their beers are always solid. There may be some styles I don't like, you know, but any styles I do like, their beer is always solid. You always know you'll get a good beer, and I don't want that to change. Because you see that in some breweries, you get better and worse, you know. Sort of just trying to... It would be the
cool place to come and hang
consistent,
out.
yeah.
Just, you know, come back and have a beer and relax, and you're not in a hurry. I mean, I think the downstairs is going to be, as we expand, the downstairs will become more or less a family area, and then maybe upstairs will be a place where we have parties and people can go upstairs and get away from noise. I mean, we're going to have a full kitchen. We'll have the ability to do some interesting things in the future. That's what we're excited about. I'm excited about.
Yeah, being able to.
We're kind of been held back because of the size of the space that we're working in now. We're working in less than half of our space. I think once we grow into that, it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited for it. Yeah.
So if you could say one thing to some aspiring brewers out there, like, yeah, we're going to start our own brewery, what would you tell them? What piece of advice would you give them?
One word?
Definitely say make sure you do your research. Don't go in willy-nilly and say, oh, I homebrew. Everybody told me my recipes were awesome. Well, my beer is amazing. Free beer, people are always going to like free beer.
Amazing. It's always amazing.
You need to taste good beer. You need to be critical of your own beer and and be aware that just people telling you, oh, your beer tastes good, that you don't know until people start paying money for your beer, whether people really, really like it or not. There are a couple people that will be honest with you if you specifically ask them, but all in all, I don't know one home brewer who everybody doesn't say, oh, your beer's amazing. So the beer needs to be amazing, like for real. And
everyone has to be. You can't make mistakes.
You really need to spend a lot of time in a commercial brewery, one way or another, whether it's through collaborations, just spending time in a large scale brewery. There's there's so many things involved. So, you know, the brew day, you get through that, you make the beer. Well, then what? You know, you need to get that beer into the fermenter. It ferments. You then need to get that beer into a bright tank without introducing any oxygen. You know, all these things are easy in theory, but it's exactly how do you do that? Then you carbonate it. What do you want to carbonate it to? How do you carbonate? It's not, you know, there are a lot of sort of shortcuts you take as a home brewer because it doesn't matter. You're not selling it. It's free beer, and you only have access to so many pieces of equipment, you know, for financial reasons.
Well, and I'll extend this question out a little bit. So you've talked specifically about the beer, but okay, you've made the beer, and it actually is for real good beer, and then you've got the whole task of selling it, marketing it, coming up with a logo, getting artwork for your packaging and all this kind of stuff, doing the accounting, making your payments to the bank. What's all that like? I mean,
Taxes.
Oh yeah, those guys. Yeah.
There's always something to do. There's always something to do. Even if you feel like you've had a really good day, you look ahead and plan
stuff's
out.
always
There's so
changing.
much
There's always
more we need to
a
do.
new event coming up,
Which
but
is great. That's
new
business.
beer coming.
And lately, a lot of our actually Rob's doing some distribution. So lately, a lot of our customers are coming in here and getting a tour of the brewery, have a few tastes of the beer, and they get to get an experience of what they're going to get before they even have to buy it.
What's the reaction been like from
It's been
the
awesome.
bars and stuff?
People
around
like
here?
that special attention.
yeah.
When you bring somebody in and give them, you know, Rob talks to them about each beer, or Judy talks, especially with the brewers when they're talking to the customers, is the best way to go.
Special.
So you're telling me, and I've asked this question to a number of people in recent interviews, even with all the advent of the internet and technology and all that stuff, people still want to come see you face to face, see where you brew the beer, taste the beer.
Rob works every Wednesday. We decided we needed somebody here, like one of the owners, to work the bar one night a week. And we kind of talked about that.
Just sort of trying to connect with the customer and give them an
Make sure we still know what's going on.
Nobody better than one of the three of us to tell somebody what's going on.
what we're doing.
What we're doing. It makes us excited too. It makes me excited for the next day.
And this is our livelihood. You know, this is what we're doing. Like I said, we're all in on this for sure.
No, we care about it.
We all love beer.
And if people have any questions, I want to make sure, that they're getting the right answer, that they're asking questions, and you know, we
actually, that's the best part of my day, is talking to the customer. At the end of the day, I have a beer with them.
So having beer education for your fans here is an important part of the mix.
For sure. And we
Spending time
give
with
tours
our
and talk about the process of making beer and different ingredients. And
So tell our listeners, do you guys have formalized tours, or is it people just show up? I mean, when can people
Saturdays.
come here and get a tour of the Checkerspot Brewing?
Saturdays at 2 and 4.
And Ryan, you've sort of seen him wandering around.
He's actually doing all the work right now.
So somebody's got to work.
Drinking beer.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
But he does most of the tours on Saturdays. He does such a great job. And 'cause what we were finding,
he's so excited.
Yeah, what we were finding is Steve and I were doing the tours at first, and you never talk about yourself. You know, you don't. A lot of people just or at least we don't ever talk about ourselves. We talk about the beer and the process and the ingredients and all local, and you know, the serving tanks are out there and it's as fresh as you can get. But when Ryan does the tours, he's so excited, and he talks about us and what Checkerspot Brewing is,
what he's doing, like he's got his hands in,
and things that he's excited about, and things like that. And so he took over a couple of tours at it was like a weekend at some point that we couldn't be we had to go to a festival.
We were gonna do them. We were gonna do it.
We had a festival to be at, so all three of us had to be at the festival. It was on a Saturday. And so I was like, all right, he used to do city brew tours, so he's no stranger to doing a brewery tour. And now he actually knows all the steps in the getting a beer from ingredients to the tap. So he knows what he's talking about. He knows the beers. He knows who we are and what we stand for. So yeah, there's really nobody better to do that than him. So we've gotten really lucky with everybody. But
So if our readers and listeners want to know more about Checkerspot Brewing, where can they find you guys on the web?
checkerspotbrewing.com.
And if
Facebook.
Like Facebook and
Instagram.
Instagram, and yeah. So
and
we're
if
pretty-
they want to come
we're
in
pretty
on
active.
tours,
Actually, lately we've had something every day, or events or
any upcoming events you would like our listeners to hear about?
We have a bunch. So I don't know when that's going to come out, but on
Pretty soon.
January 20th, we're doing our first Sunday brunch.
Yeah.
So brunch is big around here. So
Yes, it is.
we have a food truck coming, we've been working with them to come up with their menu, and then we're going to come up with beers to pair with each of their menu items.
That's fun.
And then we're also going to do beer mimosas and beer leanies. So it'll be with the orange juice or with peach juice. And so it's
We actually got some peach
local
juice
fresh
squeezed
juice,
from
peaches from
Baldur's
Boggers up in
Farm,
Westminster.
Awesome.
It's nice to have freezers. And
Yeah, we do a lot of sort of craft events. One of our bartenders, Amethyst, was really big into crafting. So she did the last event she did was making ornaments out of beer cans and beer caps and beer any types of things. She's amazing. So she is trying to do something once a month. So always some sort of like crafty beer type thing.
We got a chili cook-off on Super Bowl. We'll have like 15 people bring some chilies in, and I'm looking forward to that.
And that's a fundraiser for Barks. We do a lot of stuff with Barks,
Right.
which is right around the corner, the dog rescue.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
And then the last plug is every single Monday, so it'll be every Monday. It's a pick-and party. So musicians come in, and whether it's a guitar, a mandolin, an upright.
My
his daughter brought an
my
upright
daughter,
bass.
9-year-old daughter, brought an upright bass, and
Yeah.
she's spinning around, plunking.
Yeah, percussion, harmonicas, anything. If
So
you,
much free form,
if
open
you
mic
can play,
kind
it's
of
free.
thing.
It's
Yeah,
free.
you
It's
get a free beer.
form, pick and party. So all musicians get a free.
And if you're not
pint.
old enough, you get free cider. We got some non-alcohol cider. Yeah.
But it's been really fun. So we've had our third one this past Monday, and it's
really
really
fun.
fun.
And that's every Monday or one Monday?
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
Yeah.
So
it's
picking
just
parties every Monday.
Monday nights.
Very informal. Starts at 6:30, and you just bring your instrument in, and everybody starts jamming together.
Very
Yeah,
awesome.
very low pressure.
We need a washboard and
We do. We need
we have a
washboard.
harmonica. Yeah,
We need some
yeah.
spoons.
We
and
had
a
one of those.
washboard. If anyone's listening, we need a
dumping
spoons
board.
and washboard.
Looks like a speaker board. We had a
cajon.
speaker board.
Cajon, yeah.
That was pretty good.
What's that bluegrass band you wanted to start? Washboard Gospel, something like that?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm into that.
If you want to practice your washboard here,
Yeah.
We got
we're
it.
here for you. Yeah.
It's like, okay, Baltimore beer fans. So
spoons.
if you haven't picked up on it yet, these people love their beer. They love having a good time. They're very friendly. They're very accessible. So get your tails down to Checkerspot Brewing here on South Sharp Street, right across from the tailgate lot at Ravens Stadium. You'll be glad you did. You can meet Judy and Rob and Steve, and you'll have a great time. And until next time, this is Rick Carter at CNF Worldwide. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Rick.
a lot, Rick.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome.
Hold on
Thank you
one
very much.
CNF Worldwide for nomads everywhere.
This broadcast was produced by CNF Limited for nomads everywhere. The contents of this broadcast are the property of CNF Limited, copyright 2018. All rights are reserved. For more information about CNF publications, contact us at 305-707-4024. Find us on the web at cnfltd.com.